because I'm Johnny Wishbone, psychic extraordinaire. If you need me, just think Johnny Wishbone, and I come running.
Well, Johnny Wishbone's not coming running. Online Big Blue is coming running because, again, this is Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. You know what? I laugh because you got Jason Pincock signing with the Giants, and everyone is like, oh, what a great signing. This is one of these signings that, you wait for. It's like a Madre Harper signing. And I love it because nothing against Jason, 5th round pick, cut by the Jets. I love it, though, because somebody sent me a video that someone had done, and I didn't watch it. And it's like a 16-minute video, and it's a breakdown of Jason's film, his highlights from last year. He played in a total of 200 defensive snaps the entire year, less than 24% of the entire he played less than 24% of the snaps. How do you do a 16-minute film breakdown of a guy that's been on the field less than 24% of the time and started 2 games out of 12 and has a total, can we just guess? And like I said, I'm not slighting Jason, but can we guess how many tackles he had? He had 16 tackles and 1 pass defense. Even Brian Dable came out and said, you know what, they're happy to have Jason. That it's a guy that they like a lot, good size, good speed. But he doesn't talk about him starting. He doesn't talk about him playing. He talks about him playing special teams. But don't worry, the Giant stratosphere has anointed Jason, the new Terry Kennard, the new Sean Williams, the new Myron Guyton. Less than 24% of the snaps, and you are able to do a 16-minute film breakdown. I worked in the league, and I couldn't do this. I did film breakdown for a living, and I couldn't do this. It's all about the likes, the clicks, the bleeps, and the boops. We're getting back down that way again. The Giants, of course, they made some moves yesterday. We didn't want to do we weren't going to jump in and do a video yesterday, but they made some moves. Along with Jason, they picked up Justin Lane from the Steelers, Nick McLeod from the Bills. So they picked up 3 new safeties. They picked up Jack Anderson, a guard with the Eagles, who was formerly with the Eagles, who also worked with Dable and was a draft pick with the Buffalo Bills as well. The other big pickup is going to be Tony Jefferson, who was added over to the practice squad. He is another former Wink disciple. I like the Tony pickup. He hasn't been. In the last, if you want to be honest about it with Tony, he had some good years early on with the Baltimore Ravens. Since he hasn't really done anything since 18. He was out of the league. Wasn't he injured? Didn't he get hurt? He got hurt back in 19. Tore his ACL, and ultimately that ended his season. That was towards the end of 19. So he signed with the 49ers as a 1-year, $1 million contract. He was placed on the injured reserve back in August. I remember that, of 2011. Then he was waived. Then he was re-signed back to the practice squad, then released again and appeared in 2 games. So he really hasn't done anything in the league since 19, since the injury. So it's going to be kind of is what it is. He was back with Baltimore for a hiccup back in 2021. He had his big season with the with the Arizona Cardinals. I remember he had 90 plus tackles, I think, that year. And he had, I think, 2 sacks. I mean, like I said, it's a good depth pickup. He's a practice squad guy. If he makes the rooster, more power to him. Like I said, the Giants picked up a lot of depth at safety. We still have to worry about the cornerback situation. We also worry about the fact that the Giants placed 3 guys on the IR. They're not available for a couple weeks. So that's going to be Shane Lemieux, Smith, and Rodarius Williams. And basically what happens is we replace the guys, we picked up some guys, and we still have some cap issues. We still gotta move on with some cap room, but it's interesting. It's interesting to see exactly what's going to happen. I don't know. Like I said, this roster, and I said it yesterday, this roster is going to be in flux. And that's something we're going to have to look at. At one point in time, also yesterday, the Giants also released Austin Calitro, Max Garcia, and Tanner Hudson, defensive lineman Nick Williams. So our tight end room has gotten a little bare again. Like I said, it's interesting. And I said this roster is going to be a puzzle. a big puzzle for the next couple weeks until that September 11th game against the Tennessee Titans, because you know what, we're gonna have so many guys moving in, we're gonna have so many guys moving out. It's gonna be what you see now is not what you're gonna see week one. It's gonna be so different from what we saw initially. Because also, if you take a look at the Giants practice squad, a lot of the guys that we had released have come back to the practice squad, with the notable exception of Alex Bachman. I guess he is still out there trying to find a spot, in the NFL. And he deserved a chance with the Giants. He really did. And you have to be honest with that. He did deserve a shot with the Giants. He played well enough. But the initial practice squad right now, Jefferson was moved to the practice squad as well. You have Davis Webb, Will Holden. You got Coburn, who we like, Jalen Moore, C.J. Board, Austin Allen, the tight end, who I assume is going to be moved to the roster itself. You got Ryder Anderson, Quincy Roche made it. You got Gilbert, the defensive back, Evans, Hand, Jefferson Thompson. I mean, all the guys that got waived are back on the practice squad. But this is a puzzle. This is a puzzle piece that Schoen right now needs to kind of figure out. He needs to move his pieces. He needs to maneuver of what we need to do to make this a better situation for this team. And like I told people before, and I'm going to keep saying it again, if you were on this roster and you were anywhere between spot 46 to 53 with the Giants, don't get comfortable, because you're more likely we're going to get waived. Normally, it's the last three spots. So I feel bad for Austin Calitro, Max Garcia, and Tanner Hudson, and Nick Williams, because the fact that, they initially thought they were saved. They initially thought everything was good. They only have one spot open left on the practice squad, so you have four guys. You can't put all four guys on the practice squad. So it's going to be interesting, because right now, if you take a look at the roster, there's more holes now than before, because of the fact that you opened up a spot in the tight end room with you had taken up three additional safeties. So not all of them, of course, are going to be on the roster. I mean, you have to look at this from a perspective, and I love it because we've talked about this before. You have to look at this as a perspective of status. And I always jokingly say this, because it's that old line from Apollo 13. What do we have that's good on the spacecraft? I'll have to get back to you, Gene, because, we got a lot of, I don't want to say we have a lot of problems, because everyone knows we have a lot of problems. This is not a team late, and I've said it before, and if you think this is truth or not, this is not a team laden with talent. The cupboard is bare. When you sign old Jason, and you think that's the greatest signing ever, at 6'3", at 6 feet, 205 pounds, out of Pittsburgh, played less than 24 defensive snaps, started 2 games, only had 16 tackles, but you know what? We can figure out how to do a 16-minute film breakdown of that. Just shocks the hell out of me. But like I said, you got guys that are probably still on this roster who are not going to be on this roster. You got to figure out the tight end room, because Tanner Hudson is gone, so you have to, like I said, you're probably moving Allen. You got to figure out your wide receivers, because there's just too many guys in reference to wide receivers that we have to take a look at as well. You got to replace the injuries of Darius Williams. You got to figure out a way to figure out who you're going to put in that right guard position. You got old Joshua there, and I know that, but I have a problem putting 2 rookies on the right side of the line and then having a center who hasn't been healthy hasn't played a complete season in 2 years, hasn't been healthy in 2 years. You got Glowinski, who we have to hope is not a systems guy from Indianapolis, and then you got Andrew Thomas. So there's some depth that needs to be found in that position as well, and you're also going to need to worry about where are we going to get any type of pass rush from if our old buddy Kayvon Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari can't play. There's a lot of questions going into week one. There's more questions now in reference to going into week one, in my mind, that there were when we started training camp. Because you gotta look at this. Injuries are something that every team has to deal with. That's just the way it is. But when you're going into week one, you got Azeez Ojulari potentially out with a calf. Kayvon Thibodeau with a sprained MCL. You also have your number 3 safety in Dane Belton, who's still recovering from a broken collarbone. You got old Joshua, the 3rd round pick at left guard. He's missed some time, a replacement. He's a replacement at right guard, technically. He missed some time with an injury lately. You have Kadarius Toney, whose status for the opener nobody knows. It's a secret. We're not talking about Kadarius Toney because we're not allowed to, because it's a secret. You got John Feliciano, like I said, who's basically in the twilight of his career. I've seen better days. You have Shane Lemieux, who's on the IR. You got Glowinski, who's a free agent. Hopefully he's going to be an upgrade. He's going to be an upgrade at the right guard position. I mean, it is what it is. You got an unproven tight end who's coming back off a concussion. And so luckily he has not moved into concussion protocol. You don't know where you're going to generate your pass rush from whatsoever. Leonard Williams was walking out of the practice yesterday with his arm in a sling. And I love it for all the people that think that all the people highlight Leonard Williams and his pass rushing ability. According to the venerable Pro Football Focus, he finished 33rd in pass rush rating for interior linemen. 33rd. I'm paying this guy $9,460,000,000, and he finishes 33rd in reference to pass rusher rating for interior defensive linemen. There's something wrong with that. And then if you take a look at the secondary itself, man, Wink goes man to man a lot because of the fact that he puts his corners. He had 2 Pro Bowl corners and a Pro Bowl safety those years in 2020, 2019, and 2018 in Baltimore. So he was able to do that. But now you're going to sit there and you're going to put Adoree Jackson and Aaron Robinson on an island. And then you're going to have Xavier McKinney, who's probably one of the best players on the entire defense is McKinney. And then you're going to put Julian Love, who has had his issues in the past and got benched. And then you're going to have him backed up by either a safety with an injured collarbone or some guys we picked up off the street. It's like I said, this puzzle, and I've said it yesterday, this team is incomplete. We still have the cap issues. We still have the puzzle issues, but we're still trying to figure out the roster puzzle. And it's so many moving pieces that I don't know exactly where this is going to end up. And it's a good thing. It's a bad thing. It's going to be an interesting thing to see where this season rolls. But like I said, if you are truly looking at this roster from an objective football perspective, and I know a lot of people don't like doing that, but if you do that, you have to sit there and go, where is this talent coming from? And I don't blame Shane. I don't blame Dable, because of the fact that they weren't here for the last 10 years. They weren't here for that mess. And I don't blame them this year because of the salary cap situation. But you're pretty much hamstringed when you don't have the ability to sign any players. But I'm just curious, though, when do we start looking at this roster and when do we start saying, okay, we are building talent. We are moving forward with talent. And I wonder that aloud sometimes. Because of the fact that you compare, like I said, I have to say this. I've said it the other day. I figured this roster was maybe, if you rank 32 teams, I figured this roster was probably 28th in talent. They might be a little bit lower than that. It's interesting. They might be a little bit lower than that at this point in time. And I'm very curious about how they're going to move forward with this season, because you know what? We need some cap space during the season so we can literally move on and move forward. And I'm kind of curious about that. And I'm also curious about the fact that why Leonard Williams is wearing a brace on his arm. I'm curious about that as well, but he said he's ready to go for the season opener. Luckily, we have another week to go before we have to worry about anything else. So the Giants did put in 7 waiver claims before everything happened. And evidently, those 7 guys were all picked up by. That's it. That's 8 players from multiple teams put in waiver claims yesterday. So the Giants did put out 7 waiver claims. So that's good. I mean, like I said, they're moving. They're looking around. They're trying to find some talent. At the end of the day, we have to just move forward. At the end of the day, we have to be strong. At the end of the day, we have to remember this is a total breakdown and a total rebuild per your entire coaching staff and your front office. So you know what? let's just move on, move forward, do what we gotta do. And again, this is Tim with the Online Big Blue, bringing you the best of New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. And as always, if you can like, you can subscribe. If you can ring that bell, you think it means, that'd be awesome.